it kind of goes back to everyone in school, that if you were someone who did well in school, or if you were someone who just, even if you didn't do well on tests, if you just understood the material or something, it's one of those situations where, it's like, the right answer to whatever the subject is, but the teacher's got the teacher edition, and the teacher edition has the wrong answer in it. And JD is the kid in the class who's saying, no, I think the teacher's edition is wrong. And the teacher's getting mad at him, and the teacher is snapping at him, is criticizing him, telling him to sit down, punishing him, admonishing him with these administrative judicial procedures that they have at their fingertips, when in actuality, you could go after the class and look, and it turns out that, oh wait, the teacher's edition did have a misprint in it. So rather than listen to the student who is focused on learning through trying to understand the issues and trying to understand what's actually going on, instead the teacher, and you saw this throughout the debate, this is kind of like the sort of meta narrative of the debate, where J.D. Vance is doing what, they call it the folk wisdom, or the common sense wisdom, I think was the word he said, as opposed to the experts and the PhDs, which, and it's a whole nother discussion, but they did the exact same thing when they talked about the hurricane. And rather than talk about the people who are currently in the path of the hurricane, who are in the aftermath of it, who are dealing with that are in harm's way, who need relief, they didn't sit there and say, oh, let's put out the, websites where people can donate money or something. No, they said, oh, no, this is climate change, and try to suck them into a debate on that, again, predicated on these expert statements. So it was a situation where someone used an administrative position to try to exert force over someone who just simply was correct and had command of the facts and command of the details.
You know what I just realized, Charlie, is that your tweet was so right on during the debate, where you said J.D. Vance is dominating over three of the three women on stage, did like millions of engagement. And you were making a joke about Tim Walz. But what I just realized is that this is all a very underhanded insult to the masculinity of Tim Walz. What the women are basically saying is that Tim Walz couldn't hold his own on that stage, needed these women to sort of put JD Vance in check. And it's all a backhanded, sort of insult to Tim Walz. He couldn't hang on the stage. They tried to bail out their beta male on stage, and JD just bowled right through it. And so it's mansplaining. It's mansplaining to three women. Totally pathetic.
Speaking of trying to bail out Walz, there's some really funny stuff they've done. So this is Politico did this. They did sort of a body language analysis of the debate, except what they said was like manifestly insane. So first of all, when they were assessing Vance, their take was, I'm going to read it here. Yes, Vance's beard matters. Vance is the first White House wannabe president or vice president to have facial hair in 80 years. Research indicates that voters see beards as more masculine. That can be positive to some, but to others, especially women, it can be negative, conveying aggression and opposition to feminist ideals. And then this is even crazier. They have for Walz with his like bulging eyes like a lunatic, it says, Walz's wide eyes showed his passion. Eye popping can sometimes be a sign of surprise, but for Walz, it simply revealed his emotional intensity, like during an exchange about abortion. The dynamic and emphatic facial motion grabs the viewer's attention. For Walz, it gave extra weight to his feelings and held our gaze. And what I love is they have it zoomed in. If you're watching, you can see it there. They have it zoomed in right on his eyes, and there's a test out there that you can take that they give to adults, and it's a way of testing whether someone is on the autism spectrum. And the way they do it is they show just a person's kind of eye area, and they ask you what emotion are they expressing. And it can be shock, it can be attraction, it can be horror, things like that. And I can guarantee you that if they had that set of eyes, and you said that this was showing passion, you would not score well on this quiz. So they're doing a lot of heavy lifting over at Politico.
Can you imagine if the roles were reversed and that was, JD Vance's face and what they would be saying about it. They wouldn't be using the word passion. They would be scared, intimidated, incompetent. The double standard is pretty infuriating.
You know, there's also, I think we talked about this before when we were getting into the Tim Walz pick a couple weeks ago when he was chosen over Josh Shapiro. I can't imagine why it was the Democrats did that. But there's this idea, that Tim Walz is the man that the Democrats want you to be. This is the mode they want you in. They want you he's been in the military for decades and yet he's still just vastly overweight and unwell. And he's only 60, by the way, folks. There are lots of 60-year-olds out there that are way better looking than that guy. I mean, he looks just unhealthy. He looks very unhealthy. He's also very, timid. He's very shy. He's unsure of himself. He's scared. He's nervous. This is the 90s male who's in touch with his feelings. This was that whole thing they used to push back then, the new male that they want, the metrosexual male, which, you could kind of see a little bit. And there was this idea, I think, that no dude is ever going to want to follow that guy. Like, that's why they're so terrified about this. And keep in mind that when we talked about this when he first picked as well, this was the guy they were trying to tell us was the epitome of masculinity. Remember the new face of masculinity, Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz, and all the camo stuff and the hick lib stuff. Like,
we have that.
Hunt,
we have
I
that.
Own a gun. We have the clip. Yeah. Let's play the clip.
Yeah. So check. This is Jen Psaki saying Doug Emhoff he's reshaped our model masculinity or something like that. 131.
Talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity. And I'm not sure you planned on that, but you are an incredibly supportive spouse. Has that been an evolution for you? And do you think that's part of the role you might play as first gentleman?
It's funny, I've started to think a lot about this. I've always been like this. My dad was like this. And to me, it's the...
Yeah,
always been like this.
That's the most emasculating clip I've ever seen of a man on network television in my life since, Jussie Smollett or something. Like, that's just really hard to watch.
But this is the version of the man that they want. They don't want one that is self-confident, assertive, that is willing to go in the wilderness and stand up for truth and for justice. One that is subservient, one that is rule-following, even when the rules are not rooted in wisdom or prudence. And J.D. Vance, I thought, was terrific. He's the type of man that you want your son to be.